welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
And welcome back to our next episode 2 mini episode, spoiler episode, might I add, let's say that again, spoilery episode. I want to make this clear, because if I wasn't clear in the last episode, if you haven't read A Court of Thorns and Roses, the book, or the series, like the whole series of A Court of Thorns and Roses up to the end of Silver Flame, we're going to be mentioning like everything, or how do I say this? Everything is free game for us to talk about. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Just in case.
So we were kind of debating about, because if you guys liked our first mini episode, for the people that did listen, we were kind of sporadic all over the place, not to mention just trying to talk about a lot of things. We thought for this episode we'd do more of a, because in our chapters 6 through 10, we talked about kind of the intro to the spring and just the world in general. And so Lucien was brought up, and so our mini episode is going to be about Lucien Vencera. Also, yeah, if you hear us coughing, we just, both of us just got over a sickness, so I'm sorry if you're hearing us like cough or
just me choking on my drink.
Yeah, we're trying. Apologies if you hear some sniffles and coughs along the way.
Tabby can't edit everything.
Yeah, if we're talking, it's kind of hard, but I can do some magic, but not like Feyre magic. But yeah, so Lucien, so poor Lucien. That's all I have to say to start of this.
And that'll be a consistent thing throughout this, just poor Lucien.
So yeah, I mean, we meet him in Court of Thorns and Roses, very much. I think you said this in the last episode. You were talking about how he was just so brotherly towards Feyre, which is so interesting because, again, when I told you because I've spread this book, I've almost spread this book like the gospel, if that makes sense.
It basically is your gospel.
Yeah, so the Sarah J. Maas gospel. I showed this to a couple of my high school friends, and they thought Lucien was the love interest.
I mean, I can kind of see it. He's kind of like a mysterious bad boy delinquent is kind of like the first vibes he gave me when I read it. And so I was like, well, clearly Feyre's ditching Tamlin for him. Is he the new?
It's so interesting because I didn't think that at all. I mean, I can see where y'all are coming from, but I definitely didn't think it was going to be a love triangle scenario with them. Ooh.
Oh yeah, I didn't consider the love triangle.
Lucien gave me such brotherly vibes at the beginning that I didn't even think that, not once I was like, because also Tamlin, even very early on, and I tried not to say this in the last episode when we talked about their first meeting, I think it was specifically after they went on their ride and they encountered the bog. Tamlin was exactly how the way he is in that moment, he is at the end of, or sorry, the beginning of ACOTAR, when he's how do I say this? Being a complete jealous asshole. Even though it's very clear that Lucien doesn't like her in a romantic way.
No, they're definitely like Tabby's saying, the brother-sister kind of vibes, but also the kind of vibes of best friends who will push each other to do dangerous shit and then won't back each other up.
Yeah, because literally Lucien throughout the whole first part of ACOTAR is kind of being the mysterious guy who's I'm gonna throw a bunch of lore at you, and because she tells him about, he tells her about the bog, he tells her about the cereal, eventually leads her to trying to capture the cereal, and, almost she gets killed, whatever.
Oh yeah, I'll totally come save you if that happens.
And it's he obviously feels bad for that later, but in the moment, he definitely didn't. But, I don't know, my first impressions of him weren't love interesty in any way. I think, let me see here. I think his funniest moment of brotherly bond was when, it was Cal and Mai, and, well, first of all, just Cal and Mai in general, but...
Oh, Cal and Mai. Can't wait till we get there in the main episodes.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna have a kick out of that. It was him being do you even know what this is? It's Lucien, you tell me everything else, but no one fucking told me what Cal and Mai was. And he's ugh, idiots.
And then he rushed to explain it of you are so stupid for not listening to anyone who didn't tell you anything.
Like, he got her out of there, like, super quickly.
At least he got her out of there, though. Like, honestly, that is, like, the first good step of being a brother, I guess, or a good friend, is, like, he saw her and didn't, like, hesitate to run her out of there.
Yeah, and I think, like, I will say probably in the first book, it was a little bit more of a duty to Tamlin than how it changes over the book series. But yeah, I think he definitely grows to care for her. And I mean, I think that's what the beginning of Under the Mountain does for her. Is like, because when she gets to Under the Mountain and like he's the one going to her cell, I mean, besides Reese. Like, he's the one that first comes to her and, you know, like, what are you doing? Like, he gave you an out, like, you were supposed to leave and whatever. And she's like, well, how could I do that? So, like, he sees how much he cares about not only Tamlin, but also the people.
Maybe more so the people, but she'll do it, like, through Tamlin.
Yeah, I definitely think if you're going off of that, I think her going to Under the Mountain was specifically for Tamlin. But then when she saw everybody under the mountain and went, oh shit, now, like, not only is Tamlin's life, you know, in my purview, it's everyone. And I think Reese was a big factor to telling her that. So I can't really bag Lucien in the first book at the beginning of it for not telling her stuff. He told her as much as he could because obviously he was spelled. He couldn't tell her everything, but he tried to tell her as much as he could.
And it wasn't necessarily all of his job. Like, the fact that he even tried, whereas some people, not so much. But, like, again, we say, poor Lucien, because he did all this shit and then was hurt so much under the mountain because of his relationship with Feyre.
Yeah, because we hear actually, and especially reading it back, and especially when we're doing it while we're doing the summary chapters, we get to know a lot more about Lucien than I originally, like, picked up on. Like, we learn about his lover. We learn that, you know, his father killed his low-born Fey lover in front of him, beheaded her, and
made him watch
while his brothers, like, held him and shit and were laughing. Well, except for Eris. I don't think Eris was laughing, but he was definitely there witnessing it. Because we have our own opinions about Eris, which we could say for another time. But
yeah, we'll have a whole another thing with Eris later.
So we learn about that, and then we learn, you know, obviously that Amarantha was the reason, like, his eye got cut out. Because of something he said in defense of Tamlin.
And Tamlin still doesn't treat him good.
I know, and because then even Under the Mountain, even further than that, Amarantha, you know, even before Feyre showed up, and even after Feyre shows up, Lucien is the one person, it's like, oh, well, you know, if torturing Feyre is not getting to him, let's just pull Lucien into the mix. It's like, she knows, well, and especially she knew how to get at him, but he was always the collateral damage. Literally, if Lucien had a character arc for the first book, it was literally Lucien, hashtag collateral damage.
Oh, maybe we should have named our episode that.
Lucien collateral damage.
Lucien.
Yeah, because he went through so much. You know, his family doesn't seem to be the best people. His mom seems alright.
But she's also quiet and in a not great relationship either.
Complacent in an abusive relationship. Definitely, like, silenced. So it's almost like he's in a bit of turmoil because his family sucks, but also Tamlin's his newfound family, so he doesn't want to betray him. But at
even
the same
if he
time,
sees what's happening is wrong.
Yeah, and that's like what gets into his whole second part of the book. Like, I didn't hate Lucien. I still didn't hate Lucien in the second book. Like, I was like, you know, obviously, because I saw his point of view. Because I think he believed what he was saying. Like, he was saying, you know, about, what was the bullshit he was spewing about we gotta, you know, have a united front or whatever. I mean, honestly, Reese and Feyre said the same thing, like, in Silver Flame or whatever, about being a united front. It's just a little bit different when it comes to Tamlin, because, like, Tamlin wasn't in a good place after Under the Mountain.
That's true. He wasn't the united front.
He wasn't the one to follow, like, but Lucien fucked up. Lucien blindly followed him because I feel like he felt indebted to him. He's like, you know, he saved me from my brothers that one time. You know, he saved me from the Autumn Court. He gave me a place to stay. Because they had, like, what, 200 years together or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
When they, like, he saved them from that. And so I get it. I really get it, man. I get his loyalty. And
it's
I'm
a
glad
tough position to be in.
And also, it's not that I didn't think Lucien, because Lucien still cared about Feyre, but also Feyre wasn't in a good place either to be, like, commanding and it definitely isn't her fault at all.
No.
But I will say, as soon as she becomes more commanding and more, like, confident, I think he definitely notices the shift.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh no, now I know that this is bad. But he knew. I'm sorry I'm getting so passionate about but he knew it was bad when, like, Tamlin locked her up.
He knew it was bad before when literally Feyre came to him multiple times of, hey, can you talk to Tamlin for me? Because Tamlin isn't listening to me. Can you talk to him? Because you've been friends for longer, 200-something years. And so, like, Lucien was also getting the direct point of, yeah, something's wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel loyalty towards Tamlin, but then I also feel, in a way, like a smaller loyalty towards Feyre, and also thankfulness for getting out of Amarantha's control. But he was definitely conflicted, and he ended up not making the greatest choice.
Yeah, because it's almost like obviously he didn't see Feyre's romantic, but it's like the bros over hoes mentality. Like, he definitely, like, messed up in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, actually, now that you put it that way, yeah, no, he had, like, a small loyalty towards Feyre for, like, being the one to save them, like, to save the whole world, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, Tamlin's loyalty and the time that they spent together trumped that for that moment, and,
yeah.
Like, you know, Lucien tried a couple times. She overheard him, like, in the whole first part of Mist and Fury. Like, she hears when she tries, and, you know, obviously, Ianthe, bitch.
Simply bitch. Fucking Ianthe.
And obviously Ianthe was, like, manipulating, controlling Tamlin, but also at the same time, also, like, fuck you to Tamlin for not realizing that Ianthe was, like, totally trying to assault his friend.
Right.
And,
Poor
like,
Lucien.
oh my god, yeah, so on top of that, all the stuff that we already said, he gets, like, assaulted by Ianthe, that we don't figure out till later. And interestingly enough, we don't find that out till ACOTAR, the beginning, where, like, Lucien brings up, oh yeah, I performed, like, so during Mist and Fury, while Feyre was gone, that he performed the rite with Ianthe, and I, like, body chills.
Yeah.
Ew.
Firstly, because Tamlin was so out of his mind because Feyre wasn't there, because Tamlin thought that Feyre was being, you know, kidnapped and held hostage and whatever. So he couldn't perform his High Lord duties. But then on top of that, he allows his best friend, Lucien, to go in with this disaster of a creature called Ianthe.
Like, sometimes, you know, I don't, like I said, I think I said this in the first mini episode, I don't think Tamlin is damned. I think he did a lot of fucked up shit and he needs to atone. But at the same time, like, I mean, Ianthe was definitely manipulating, but it's like, come on. You've also been friends with this guy for so long. How do you not see how uncomfortable he is by her?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you not?
Are you so blinded?
Are you, like, and again, I guess he's so blinded by love that he doesn't understand it. And so, but he knew Tamlin fucked up when he trapped her inside, because he was pleading to Feyre. I remember in that scene, he was pleading to her, like, I'm sorry, like, I'm gonna fix this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, too late.
Yeah, no, you should have fixed it right then, because now it's too late, and by the time you're back, she's gone.
But again, it's not all on Lucien.
No.
To have fixed that scenario.
Which seems to be a common theme, is that everything seems to be on him. Whether he puts it on him, like, himself, or someone else puts it, or we as readers put it on him to do better. Like, It's not his job, really. Like, it's not...
So it's like, I definitely, because then I honestly do feel bad, like, if we're like, because, you know, obviously we don't see Lucien again till middle to, like, 3/4 into Mist and Fury, when Rhys and Feyre are in the woods, or, like, in the Illyrian mountains, and he, like, finds her in the middle of nowhere.
Wearing Illyrian leathers.
And has one of the most badass, I mean, obviously Mist and Fury is one of my top favorite.
My favorite ACOTAR book.
I would say so as well. I would say it's ACOTAR and then Silver Flame. But has the most badass moment of like, oh god, what did she say? It was like, sometimes when you keep something in the darkness looks back at you or something.
Yeah, when you spend so much time in the darkness looks back.
Yes, oh my god, it's such a good line.
Yeah, and it's so accurate. It can be used in so many different ways.
But I feel like, I mean, obviously, fuck him for trying to, like, force her to leave.
Mm-hmm, and, like, trying to grab her. And also afraid that she didn't let him grab.
A bad mistake. But, like, I do feel bad because, like, I feel he did, because we also didn't see the 3 months in between books where they got to, they lived together and they got to know each other a little bit more and whatever. It's obviously he felt sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel his sadness. He's like, what did you do? And obviously he's talking to Reese, but whatever.
At first, when I first read that part, though, I'm like, wait, why are you asking Feyre what she did? Like, you all think that she's been kidnapped. But then I realized that it was him asking Reese what he did.
But he also fucked up there, too, where, like, he's like, well, why did you send Tamlin that note? Like, that just made things worse. It's almost like Lucien knew it was her. Like, he knew it was her writing. Because the thing is, I don't think Tamlin thought it was her writing.
No,
because
100%.
Again, like I told you, Tamlin didn't know that Reese was teaching her how to read. So,
right, and also Tamlin technically did see her writing. Like, I was just about to say that he had never seen her handwriting. But no, he did when he found her list of words. But that back then, her handwriting was really bad.
Yep.
And so maybe he just assumed that it'd still be as bad.
Or that, I mean, even if she was writing, like, she wasn't writing, like, full elegant sentences. And, they were very scattered. So, obviously, to him, it's like, no, that's not her. Because I know she can't read. I know she can't do this.
Which is just bad in itself anyway. Of like, that, and yet you never tried to do. Well, no, he did try once, but it didn't end up working out.
He should have tried again after they got together, but that's
after they got back from under the mountain when there was no more stress, quote unquote.
So but Lucien, I could definitely feel his pain, but at the same time, like, I think he was also cemented in the Reese is bad trope because he was listening to Tamlin, and it's like, well, Tamlin's not giving him the full story either because. True. He's making it seem like Reese is the bad guy and, killed my family, da-da-da. It's like, actually, you killed his family first.
Right? When Reese trusted you.
Unless Lucien knew that and, didn't think anything. But I don't think he knew that.
That's an interesting theory, though.
Because if he did, well, then that's stupid. To think that Reese would just be cruel for no reason. But,
and also, technically, like... If we're just touching on this subject for the moment, Reese didn't want to kill Tamlin's mother.
Wait, say that again?
Sorry, Reese didn't, want for Tamlin's mother to be killed, just like the brothers and the father.
Well, yeah, but even then, sure, but, he didn't even listen to that, though.
Yeah, true.
Because Tamlin just thought, oh, you killed everybody. But the thing is, Tamlin killed his mom and sister. Not his brother, or his... Well, Reese didn't have a brother, but... He has brothers, but not, blood brothers.
Right. And luckily, his other brothers didn't die either.
I know what you mean. But also, I just don't think Lucien got the whole story.
Yeah, definitely not. Not if he was following with that kind of blind trust.
Because then I think, he sees that. I think Lucien finally gets that, though, when we get to the end of Mist and Fury, and, they pop out of the shadows, and it's like, are you kidding me? I was sitting there listening to it, reading it the first time, and I literally went, are you fucking serious?
Did you fucking do this? Seriously? What were you fucking thinking?
Because if you reread that scene, we have a billion times, Lucien is the one that's, talking back to the King of Hybern the whole time. Tamlin says some things, but it's always, aimed at Reese or Feyre.
Just like, Feyre, come. And she's
it's
fuck that.
Lucien is the only one that's speaking up for, what's going on here. Lucien will be like, wait, what do you mean by that? Or, no, don't do that. Or, standing up for the sisters in any way.
It's no, you cannot do that. I know we had an agreement, but that was for Feyre. You do not bring the sisters into this.
And even before, the end of that scene, he's already trying to protect because, again, they only know lore about the cauldron. They've never been in its presence before.
Right.
And so they're seeing it, they feel how bad it is. It's like they couldn't imagine themselves in it, just imagine a fucking human in it.
And then, of course, Tamlin doesn't really care.
No, he doesn't. And so, like, Lucian's the only one speaking up for the sisters. And I do like, in the, I'm gonna keep bringing up the graphic audio, but, it's specifically when Elaine gets put in the cauldron and gets out, because, they're in their nighties, or in their night robes. And it's described as Elaine getting, like, dumped out of the cauldron, and her clothes are shifted down, and so everyone can see her, like, her breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And all the, like, Hybern guys are laughing, and they're being, like, really creepy and cringy. And Lucien is the one to run over and be like, can you get her something to cover herself with? Or, like, oh, you guys are disgusting.
And then eventually uses his own tunic to cover her.
And then, obviously, push comes to shove, looks at her new fey eyes, and goes, "You're my mate?" Mic drop.
Shit.
That's an oh fuck moment if I'd ever heard one.
Sorry, you messed up, fam.
Again, this is exactly why when that happened to Rhys didn't say shit.
Mm-hmm.
He just booked it and left.
He ran away.
Honestly, which was probably the better thing to do, because if Rhys told Feyre in that moment, they probably would have been in a Lucien scenario.
I feel like she straight up would have rejected him. Well, maybe not directly.
Because again, she didn't understand. None of them understood what the mating bond was. Like, none of them did.
Right.
And so, if he just said that at it, like, Rhys foresaw that really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst Lucien, I think, was just too stunned with the moment that, like, oh my god, what?
This human that we've just put into the cauldron and turned into Fae in order to get Feyre back is now my mate.
And that we indirectly, are at fault for.
And like you said in this first spoiler episode of, like, they died when going into the cauldron. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, oh shit, that means, like, I technically helped kill my mate.
Yeah.
That's a hard burden.
And especially because I think he was also thinking, because I think he said this at some point in ACOTAR, it was something where he was talking about his old lover, and he thought they were mates. Or that the mating bond was going to snap into place at some point, or... Because that's pre-ACOTAR.
Mm-hmm.
It was very described as mates wouldn't happen, like, very instantaneously. It was very rare for that to happen. It was something... Because, like, even with, the Winter Court couple. Oh, crap. Vivian and Callias.
Yeah, Callias. That's what his name is.
They were friends for, like, what? Centuries? And then
most of their lives, because they were childhood friends.
Because it didn't snap into place, so it's not common. I think it was the only other, like, example that we have is Rhys's parents of it being kind of instantaneous.
Like, immediately once you saw.
Yeah, so that's not very common. So, it wouldn't be surprising to me that Lucien would think I actually forgot what his lover's name was. They said it, but... something with a J.
We'll remember it at some point, but
yeah, it'll come up when we're editing.
Jasminda.
Ah, yes.
Yep, Jasminda. Yep, I remember. It wouldn't, be weird if they thought that they were going to be mates. So I think he was also reeling by the fact that, because it's kind of a fucked up scenario if you think about it, because it's like, oh, well, I loved this woman and I still loved her even after she died, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to fall in love with this woman after not knowing her and after being a terrible meeting.
Yeah, and also I feel like there's the fact that in a way though there is a similarity between Elaine and Jasminda is that they were both in a way lower class, because according to Fae, humans are way lower than them, and then Jasminda was of a lower class as well compared to the High Lord's son, and so I feel in a way that's a similarity. And now thinking back on it, part of me is wondering if maybe Lucien was thinking oh shit, I don't want this to happen again. On top of everything else that was railing.
I just thought about this. Do you think that he would have known? Because remember, Cassian met Nesta before, like, before they returned.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent a lot of, well, quote unquote, a lot of time with her. That more than Lucien did. Do you think that Lucien would have known, like Cassian did, that they were, like, sort of destined or something? Because I think he would have.
Like, if they spent more time together?
Oh, yeah. Like, if, like, they switched places, if, like, Lucien
yeah,
saw Elaine.
Eventually. Like, it would have been, like, an innate feeling of, like, yeah, there's something here. I'm not sure what.
Because it's just... every time I think of it is so sad, because every time I think of it, I think of, like, the beginning of ACOTAR, and I think of, ACOTAR, A Court of Wings and Ruin. I feel like I've been saying that so often. It's like, oh, I'll just say Wings and Ruin.
Sometimes I completely forget that's the actual name of the book.
Yeah, because it makes so much sense. ACOTAR makes so much sense for the book. But I feel so bad because when he first sees Elaine after everything, and it's in a more controlled environment, like, his inner monologue is so sweet. He's like, this is the most, knowing that he loved Jasminta, knowing that, he says, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
And, like, that's the thing about mates, is, like, literally they're meant for each other.
Mm-hmm. And it's so sad because he was like, even when she was like gangly and like,
and not responding and very distant, he still was saying that she was the most beautiful woman, the most beautiful female he'd ever seen.
Because if, like, you see, because when she turns her head and, like, actually looks at him, he's like, his, like, heart starts racing. He's like, oh my god, look at, like, she is amazing. And then she says, your name's Lucien, right? And then he goes, she says my name. Oh my god, I've never heard a woman say my name, like, more beautifully.
Oh my god, a female has never said my name before.
It's that very typical romance of just me being like, oh my god, that's, like, so sweet, though, because he's actually thinking that. Because, I mean, obviously a part of the mating bond is playing into that, but I also think because we get those 3 months of just Lucien and Feyre in the spring court at the beginning of Wings and Ruin, it's almost like he's building up this first meeting with Elaine. Because he knows he's eventually going to go to the night court with her.
Yeah.
So she's like, I mean, also, I don't want to, like, skip over the first part of ACOTAR, but I think what's so funny about the first part of the third book is just how Lucien knows. He knows and just plays along with it.
Like, I mean, he sees it at the, like, very end of, like, the second book of, like, you know, when Feyre's like, fake, let's go home, and letting the High Lady of the Night Court into his property or whatever. Lucien is like, no, that's that's not how it works. Because it's like seeing Elaine, like, kind of opened his eyes like that of like, okay, so this was the smack in the face that I needed. Things aren't great, yay.
Because what an epic way to end that novel.
Right. So much, like, so similar to the Let's Go Home of the first book, but also, let's go home, he he he.
It's like, because, yeah, Lucien is now stuck, you know, between, like, a rock and a rock and a rock.
And Feyre. A rock and a rock and a rock and Feyre.
Feyre. Because he has to keep the ruse up to Tamlin, because if Tamlin finds out that she's kind of rusing it, then he's not gonna know what happened to Elaine. Like, everything in his, like, first, I want to say his push or his, like, motivation for that first part of that book is literally, okay, I want to know what happened to her, because he doesn't know what did happen or where they went or anything like that. So
I mean, they did kind of just, like, disappear, like, because it was, like, right at the end, and they just, like, they were grabbed by the Illyrians and yanked off.
And, I mean, I can't, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it's almost like a repeat of the first book, a little bit. Because Feyre goes in with all these expectations that things are going to be bad, or these biases towards people, when they don't actually know the whole story. It's almost like Lucien is getting a taste of his own medicine in that regard.
And then, like, I also see that, like, Lucien is, I mean, I think he says it, like, later on, of, like, saying that Feyre is, like, all flushed out and has muscle again and everything. So it's like, clearly she wasn't treated badly. So, like, I feel like that gives him a little bit of hope, but then also, yeah, that realization of he won't be able to find Elaine unless Feyre takes him to her.
And it's kind of sad that, like, Lucian's really the only person that sees that.
Yeah.
Well, Lucien and Alice, they both saw.
We need more Alice.
I know. I really want her to come back. I think she will.
I hope so.
But, how do I say? It's the whole beginning and, like, just us figuring out more about... I think Lucien and Feyre bonded more in the first part of ACOWAR than they ever did.
Definitely. Especially, like, once they, like, escaped the Spring Court again. The whole, like, traveling together and then camping together and then, you know, sharing warmth because of they lost Lucian's cloak and then the fighting on the ice and, God... When I think of ACOWAR, like the beginning of ACOWAR, and then combined with our poor Lucien trope, I just think of Az carrying Lucien. And both of them looking so uncomfortable.
Yeah, because when, so in the sequence of events, right, when, just to remind people if they don't remember what we're talking about, like, they were in the Winter Court being chased by Lucian's brothers. It was like 3 of them and Eris. And, yeah, what a dick. And they were, like, running them on that iceberg, and then, of course, our 2 bad boys, Az and Cass, pop up out of nowhere and save them. And so they have to fly Feyre, but Cassian, of course, takes Feyre, while Azriel has to get caught carrying Lucien back to the Night Court.
Poor Lucien, and also poor Az.
I think that was so funny though when Cass said that, of just like, I don't know who looks more uncomfortable, Az or Lucien Vincera. And like, Vincera?
Vincera who?
It's like, oh, that's Lucian's, you know, birth theme or whatever. And oh, what a funny. Remember, didn't I send you that photo?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone's fan art of Az carrying Lucien.
Yeah. God.
Also, can I just say what a fucking genius Sarah is though for making that awkward at the very beginning, because then Azriel becomes his kind of rival in a sort.
Yeah, with Azriel like hitting on Elaine constantly.
For Elaine's, oh my god.
Or rather, also Elaine hitting on Az.
We need to do, like, another, like, I feel like some of our more spoilery things can be, like, about their relationships, because we could, like, talk for hours about those, but...
We need a whole relationships episode.
Right. We're gonna try to stick to... But we also can't talk about Lucien without talking about Elaine, but... I think... Going back to the bonding thing, I definitely do think... my favorite moment at the beginning of ACOWAR is when they're talking... The 2 times they talk in the cave. The first one was... when Feyre's talking to Lucien and he said, the girl that I knew under the mountain died or something, and she's like, yes.
Or rather, no, I think it was because that was something she had told him, and he's like, huh. And then, like, later in the cave, then he's like, you were right, the person I knew did die. She's like, in her head, she's like, no shit, Sherlock.
And it's like, but I also, looking back on it and rereading it, I don't necessarily, like, it obviously sounds pointed, but I also don't think it could be taken like that. It could also be taken as like, okay, well now I know. Now my eyes have been opened. In that way. Because like now the ruse of Tamlin has been like kind of washed away from me.
Yeah.
Because now she's realizing, like, or he's realizing how, you know, adept she is and, you know, how good she is with a sword. Like, it's like, obviously, you weren't being tortured in the Night Court, is all we can say.
If anything, that's what you can see. Like, you were able to go head-to-head with a commander from Hybern.
Oh, right, and kill both of them. So, you know, and obviously when they get to the Night Court, I just think the whole conversation with Rhys and, like, I mean, obviously, I mean, we love him. I think one of his, like, shining moments, though, was when they came back after they, you know, sexed.
After they sexed.
After they had sex and kicked everyone out of their house to do so.
Did the naughties.
Was when Lucien kind of gave Feyre a disgusted look when looking at her wedding ring.
God, Rhys was not happy.
Rhys, like, he's like, I'm only gonna say this once, Lucien. He explains first, I didn't touch Feyre until she, like, her and Tamlin were no longer together, or, like, she left, or for a really long time. He's like, if you ever look at my mate with that kind of distaste again, I will rip your throat out.
It's like,
And, like, we can laugh, but, like, also Reese was not kidding.
but the thing was, like, Cassie and Azrael were, like, remember they were on the, they were, like, on the post, and they were kind of, like, also going like this, and with arms crossed, and they were kind of, like, smirking at Reese, like, yeah. Like,
There you go.
It was like a wholesome moment.
They're, like, wholesome in, like, the most hilarious way.
Because, like, you know, obviously he's protecting her, but also almost protecting himself in a way. Like, okay, you're in my territory now. You're under my wing. You're in my city. Do not fucking assume anything. Because everything...
also...
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, go.
Yeah, he is also, like, High Lord. So, in a way, he has to also say, hey, I'm High Lord here. What I say goes. And then on top of that, don't look at my mate like that.
It's like everything you think you know or everything you assume is nothing. Like, it's wrong. Because then they go up to the house and they have that, like, second dinner like they did. Like, it was almost mirrored in the first, like, Mr. Fury. Where it's, like, Lucien, Nesta, and everyone else. And Lucien got put at the head of the table so awkwardly.
Yep.
He's like, wait, you guys don't, like, how, so weirdly how casual Reese is to him. And, well, they had that talk on the balcony where, you know, Feyre told her side of the story and Reese told his side of the story, you know, only probably to do that because of Feyre.
Probably because Feyre, like, was like, no, you need to fucking do this.
Because we want to explain, because Feyre cares about what Lucien thinks. So, anyway, I just think, like, his whole, like, the whole beginning of that book was so interesting to me, because it was, yeah, they definitely got closer than they ever did, and Lucien definitely learned who she truly was. And, you know, like, push comes to shove, we don't, like, see him too often. He gets, like, stuck up at the house with the girls. To the House of Wind, sorry.
And yet he's not allowed to talk to them.
Because, first of all, Nesta would kill him if he tried.
Well, technically, she didn't kill him when he did try.
Well, that's because Feyre, like...
That's true.
Back.
Feyre was literally there with them.
Because, yeah, I did talk about how they first interacted and whatever, and how Elaine acted with Lucien. And they tried... I think I wanted to bring up their whole... I mean, again, we could talk about Lucien for days, but I think he goes off... to do, like, the side quest in most of ACOWAR.
The side quest.
Of, like, going to find Bassa and, you know, everything because of Elaine's vision.
The fact that he believed, like, right away, no questions asked about Elaine's vision, though. He's trying.
He is. And that whole scene where, like, they called the Maja, they called the healer to come in, and Lucien kind of had to bridge the gap between them.
God.
It's like he was being so gentle with her, and he's always been so gentle with her, and she
Elaine,
just doesn't care.
No, Elaine, like, actually pisses me off with the way she treats Lucien.
Okay, yes, you know.
Like, you're not all that high and mighty.
It's like, yeah, give him some, like, okay, I can understand the slack at the beginning, but he's not hurting you, he's not hurting anybody, it's not like he put you in the cauldron, you know. Indirectly.
He did try and stop it.
He tried so hard. And, dude, every winter solstice he gives her a gift. Even though she doesn't like the gifts that he gives.
She basically ignores them.
And it's, like, so sad because I think she just is on this, like, bandwagon about, she's like, I don't really care about destiny or anything like that. Kind of like how Nesta was, but in, like, a more subdued way.
Yeah.
I mean, she's also on that track that she wants to get turned human again, which isn't going to happen.
No, it's not.
I mean, we've talked about in our, like, talks that we've had with each other personally of just what we think is going to happen with them in particular is, well, you and I both agree that Lucien and Elaine are endgame, but it's going to take, like, a long time for them to get there.
They're definitely gonna, I mean, like we said, like, before, I think in the last spoiler episode, like, Elaine's definitely gonna have an evil arc, and then Lucien's gonna be dragged along for the ride, and then they'll end up together.
Because I feel like he's being too nice with her now. Like, if that, like, makes sense.
He needs to tell her to her face that she's, like, not being pleasant to be around.
Because, if anything, he's just, like, fueling it because he's not being honest with her about how he feels. It's almost like how
the reason I think Cassian and Nesta worked so well and how they got there so quickly was because Cassian would, like, bring it up to her face and be like, hey, no, that was dumb what you just said, or whatever. And
like, they would actually talk to each other.
In a weird way, they communicate more than they do. Because, I mean, we've been on the bandwagon that, like, Lucien has been through, like, so much, and, we're getting to the end of our, like, 50-minute mark, but I want to, like, throw in there. We find out at the end of ACOTAR that Helion is actually Lucien's dad. So not only does he have, like, a terrible family dynamic with, Baron, full well probably knowing that Lucien isn't his. We also have a guy, like, he's technically the heir to another court.
So he's the quote-unquote son of Baron, so High Lord of Autumn. And then he, at one point, was best friends with Tamlin, the High Lord of Spring. And then his real father is Helion, the High Lord of Day. It's like, okay, so which one is he going to choose? Oh, the human world.
Yeah. So he goes, and, like, something, because we actually haven't seen, like, too much of Lucien throughout, like, the last 2 books.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of going, like, back and forth between actually, he's being more emissary than I think we've ever seen him. Because he's jumping from the humans, Jurian and Bassa, their band of exiles, eye roll, in the human lands, to sometimes the Spring Court, where Tamlin is just, fucking off and not doing anything. Prowling the woods, as we like to say. Then to the Night Court to, like, convene with Az, which I think is so hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Has to convene with Azriel. And then, like, I don't think, well, he hasn't been to Day, obviously, because he doesn't know, which that will obviously be brought up at some point.
Yeah, that's gonna change.
Because, like, I've talked to you about this, and we kind of are in, like, agreeance with agreeance isn't a word, but whatever, we'll go with it.
I thought it was. Oh,
Is
shoot.
it?
Agreement? Agreement.
Well,
agreement.
Agreement, yeah, there we go. We are in agreement that there's so many scenarios that Sarah could throw at us, though. Like, he is going to be the heir of one of the courts, whether or not it be Spring, Autumn. I mean, I think Eris is going to be Autumn's heir, but because that's what he wants. But he's either going to be the High Lord of Spring or Day. I mean, it would be sad to see Helion die because we love him, but it's going to be either or.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't really know where she's headed with it. But you brought up a really excellent point. I think it was during Silver Flame, during the dance scene, where they were talking about Elaine coming down the stairs and that, no. Sorry. It was then and when Nesta, like, went to the Spring Court those couple of times where she's like, Elaine would thrive here or something.
Yeah.
It's like, is that Sarah saying that Elaine is going to be in the Spring Court and, like, therefore Lucien's going to be in the I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. So,
it is. We have no idea.
So I just feel bad that Lucien is, like, stuck in this never-ending... He can't go to Night, because if he goes to Night, he's definitely going to be, quote-unquote, betraying Tamlin in some way by being there. But that's also where his mate is. He also doesn't know his true lineage. His mom is fucking stuck in a marriage with a very, like, emotionally / probably physically abusive husband.
And also has lost, like, half of her sons already.
Oh, yeah. And his best friend doesn't give a shit about him anymore because he feels betrayed. And he's literally living in the human lands with, like, one Phoenix, that's what I'm just gonna call her.
A Phoenix and a reborn human from 500 years ago.
I mean, they are a band of exiles, if I will say that. They definitely are, but I just think Lucien has so much potential in this series, and I think he's going to have, if he has a happy ending, or if he doesn't have a happy ending, I'm going to be sad. But I definitely think he and Elaine are gonna get together, but it'll be after definitely some turmoil with her.
My prayer goes out to Lucien. Please, Sarah, please let Lucien have a happy ending. He's been through so much.
I remember my mom saying one time, I think it was after she read these books, she was just like, "Oh, if Sarah doesn't give Lucien a happy ending, I'll give her the what for."
Your mom totally would.
Writes an email to Sarah. Actually, Lucien deserves this.
Lucien deserves... Actually, that's like another theme, is Lucien deserves better.
Yeah, he has a mate that doesn't love him, or that's, like, stuck in the past. Also, he would be such a better lover than that dick that she was with.
Even Grayson.
God,
and so Grayson, like, fucking, like, was just like, oh, you're Faye now. Ew. Tosses her away.
First of all, she's an ethereal beauty as a Fae. You should be fucking lucky, if anything. Even his dad was like, whoa, bud, like, calm down, you didn't need to say that to her.
Yeah, for the parent, like, even though the parent is Faye hating, like, he actually was trying to calm him down, and I'm just like, so you reject her, throw her away, and yet we have Lucien over here, who hasn't quite been rejected yet, but is basically feeling rejected. And he still, like, gives her gifts and tries to talk to her and gives her soft smiles and stuff. And that's like, okay, clearly Lucien is better than Grayson.
Like, I honestly thought at the end of ACOTAR, when Elaine was the one to invite him to live at the Night Court, I honestly thought she was going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of a starting point. Then I read Frost and Starlight and was like, no, she could give a shit less that he's there.
She still doesn't care.
But I do appreciate, though, how even sometimes, if it's not their books, I mean, if this next book that that Sarah comes out with is going to be, like, highlighting as Elaine, whoever, Lucien is going to be in the story more no matter what. I just love how Lucien's almost now like a star cameo. Cause like, like Frost and Starlight and in Silver Flame, like he has those moments where we're like, Lucien! Hi!
Lucien's back!
It's like, hey, what's up, man? Cause, sorry, this is the last thing I'll say, cause again, we could like talk forever, but my favorite cameo thing of his is when, specifically cause I read Silver Flame the most recently, reread Silver Flame the most recently, was when he shows up when, like, Nesta is, like, beating the fuck out of the tree.
Yeah.
And she, like, burns through it, but, like, it turns gray and withered. And Lucien, like, she's, like, steaming past him, gives him a glare, and then keeps walking. And he looks at Cassian, and he's like, what the fuck did you create?
What is that thing right there? And, you know, Cassian just simply shrugs and walks over and is like, oh, so this log is burned from the inside. Lovely. Lucien is just like, what?
This is why Elaine is better for him in terms of, like, intensity, because she's not that intense.
No. She's a bit strange, but not that intense. Only Cassian can deal with her.
My two last parting words is poor Lucien, and also, like, Lucien deserves better.
Oh, poor Lucien. He'll be in my prayers.
So, we hope you enjoyed this more themed, spoilery episode. So, let us know if this is something you like more than the more sporadic. I mean, some people like different things, so we wanted to try something else in terms of being more sporadic and just bringing up the fun things that we found in the first one versus a more, like, specific, okay, we're going to talk about this character or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So, we hope you liked this. Do you have anything to say to the people before we leave?
Pray for Lucien. Inform Sarah to give him a happy ending.
We'll all petition Sarah if in this next book that she makes that he doesn't. We'll all sign a petition.
Yes. Oh, also, I did also want to say, and we'll probably make posts about this and stuff, if you ever want to see any, like, bloopers or anything, because we do also film our faces when recording these, like, definitely, like, let us know, because we have some crazy shit that happens. Yeah,
because we also were trying to gauge about whether people would like to see our faces or not, because we can easily do that on YouTube, since our podcast is on YouTube now. We can, like, more readily access a video in terms of making that accessible. So if you guys like that, or do, like Liesl said, want to see spoilers, please go ahead and, like, email us, comment, or whatever, and see if that's something you guys would like.
Yay.
Yes, we'll see you in the we'll see some of you in the next mini episode, and we'll see probably most of you in the next summary episode. So episode 3. Have a great night, evening, morning, whenever you guys are listening.
Have a great time.
Yeah, have a great time. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. It's flu season. Stay
Drink
healthy,
water,
happy.
eat food, sleep.
Yes.
do all of that. So
Read Sarah J. Maas.
Yep. Keep steady by the fire and read.
Necessities.
Right. So, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
2, 3, 4. If you ever want to find a brand new home, I'll take you away. I won't ask why. We can find a field of our very own, playground and garden, and our bed at night. We could take a train across the city and watch a puppet show as it goes. Men and women running to get home, or bartering or fighting, talking out of right. The earnest mechanic, the lounger, the beggar, the boys and the